Hey kids, this story is about Joseph and what happened to him when he was sold into Egypt as a slave. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potaphar, the captain of Pharaoh's bodyguard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. But the Lord was with Joseph, so he became a successful man in the house of his master. Now his master, Potaphar, saw that the Lord caused all that he did to prosper. So Joseph found favor with him and became his personal servant, and he made him overseer over his whole house. Now the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house on account of Joseph, so he left everything he owned in Joseph's charge, and with him there he did not concern himself with anything except the food which he ate. Now Joseph was a handsome man, and it came about that his master's wife looked at Joseph, and she wanted a relationship with him. But he refused and said to her, "Behold, with me here, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house, and he has put all that he owns in my charge, and he has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do this great evil and sin against God?" But as she spoke to Joseph day after day, he did not listen to her to be with her. And it happened one day that he went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the household were there. And she caught him by his clothes, and so he left his garments in her hand and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and had run away, she called to the men of the household and said to them, "See, he has brought in this Hebrew to us to make sport of us. He came after me, and I screamed, and he ran away." So when Potaphar came home, then she spoke to him. "The Hebrew slave whom you brought to us came in to make sport of me, and I screamed, and he left his garment beside me and ran away." Now when Potaphar heard the words of his wife, he took Joseph and put him in jail, where the king's prisoners were confined. But the Lord was with Joseph and gave him favor in the sight of the chief jailer, so that he committed to Joseph's charge all the prisoners who were in the jail. And the chief jailer did not supervise anything under Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Then it came about that Pharaoh's cupbearer and his baker offended him. And Pharaoh was furious with his two officials, so he put them in prison in the same place where Joseph was imprisoned. And the captain of the bodyguard put Joseph in charge of them, and he took care of them, and they were in confinement for some time. Then the cupbearer and the baker for the Pharaoh of Egypt both had a dream in the same night. And when Joseph came in to them in the morning and observed them, behold, they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's officials, "Why are your faces so sad today?" Then they said to him, "We have had a dream, and there is no one to interpret it." So Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell it to me, please." So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "In my dream, behold, there was a vine in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches. And as it was budding, its blossoms came out, and its clusters produced ripe grapes. Now Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, so I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I put the cup into Pharaoh's hand." Then Joseph said to him, "This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 more days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you will put Pharaoh's cup into his hand according to your former custom when you were his cupbearer. Only keep me in mind when it goes well with you, and please do me a kindness by mentioning me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For I was in fact kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing wrong, that they should have put me in this dungeon." When the chief baker saw that he had interpreted favorably, he said to Joseph, "I also saw in my dream, And behold, there were 3 baskets of white bread on my head. And in the top basket there were some of all sorts of baked foods for Pharaoh, and the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head. Then Joseph answered and said, This is its interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 more days Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and will hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh off of you. So it came about on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that they made a feast for all his servants, and he restored the chief cupbearer to his office, and he put the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker just as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Well, kids, when things seem to go wrong, we can always know that God has not forgotten us.